banned by the Football Association, now he's unstoppable. Please subscribe. Episode 31. Goal-scoring heroes of League One teams. Our goal is to win the FA Cup. In the final round of FA Cup qualifying, Stokesbridge, an amateur side of the League Amateur in the North League, defeated Manchester United 3-2 after being 2 goals behind. In the match, the Oriental player Chu was impressive. He first shot 27 meters outside the box with a powerful barb shot that broke the net. Just 2 minutes later, Chu cleverly missed the ball, then wrapped the penalty area, received a cross from a teammate and pushed an empty goal to equalize. In 70 minutes, Chu used a no-ball run to find a gap, took a pass from a teammate, turned and shot into the net to complete a hat-trick. Before the FA Cup, Chu scored 13 goals in 5 games. The efficiency is amazing. Chu said in the interview that their goal is to win the FA Cup. An amateur league team has such a big goal. This Sheffield Post report didn't get much attention. Only local Sheffield residents were somewhat shocked. That Class 8 Stokesbridge has indeed been very red recently, and there has been a lot of movement. Even fans of Championship powerhouse Sheffield United have noticed the amateur team. Of course, everyone has different attitudes towards the goal of FA Cup champions. Some people appreciate the ambition of this team, maybe they can make it all the way to the English League. To further break into the professional league, you need a lot of capital investment, and the semi-professional English Council is actually very strong. Another part of the fans scoffed at Chu Xuan's words. I guess I want to be famous and want to go crazy, this kind of thing can be said? We at Sheffield United are a championship contender and have a chance to overtake. Even we dare not think of a championship. They started jumping after winning a few games, and then the real test is the main game. And that Oriental striker was blown into the sky, and it felt very weak. At this moment, these Sheffield United fans are lining up in front of a particularly popular Chinese restaurant recently. How popular is it? During peak periods, a 4-hour queue is quite possible. As for appointments, reservations are available in 2 weeks' time. Originally, the business of the restaurant was already very good, since Prince William, a member of the British royal family, came to eat here. The third uncle's restaurant business exploded in an instant. There were even many people who contacted him to join and open a branch. In this case, several Sheffield United fans bragged about Sheffield United while chatting about that amateur team. After waiting in line for 2 hours, it was finally almost time for them. But it's not okay for you to say that. I watched that Chu goal before, he is very strong, maybe it is really a miracle. That Oriental striker? Humph, it's just playing weak teams, what is the use of him running against strong teams? Ha ha ha, I really want to see him play a game with us Sheffield United, even the reserve team can beat them by 10 goals. Hey, look. At this moment, one of them noticed that something was wrong and quickly covered his companion's mouth. These Sheffield United fans fixed their eyes on the employee who was in charge of queuing up at the entrance of the restaurant to pick up the number as they mentioned the Eastern striker. Chu Xuan stood in front of the stage and smiled with an emotionless professional smile. How many diners? Several Sheffield United fans were stunned. It's over, the bad words are heard by the Lord. These Sheffield United fans are college students, not football hooligans, and they still have a sense of shame. One of the skinny white students quipped, 5 bits. Chu Xuan nodded lightly, and then wrote the table number with a note paper and handed it to him. Go in and sit at this table, it's already packed. The restaurant is so busy that guests need to go in and find a place on their own, and only after sitting down can someone come to order. Okay, thanks. The man took the note and paused again. I'm sorry, that. Chu, can you sign my name? Chu Xuan was stunned, took the note and brushed 2 strokes to sign it casually. I used to sign many times when I was with Kinder in the Chinese Super League. Returning to play in England, he was only recently asked for autographs. Thank you. By the way, is your goal really FA Cup title? The skinny Sheffield United fan asked more. But seeing Chu Xuan nodded firmly, yes, I want to win the championship. After entering the restaurant and ordering, the others began to laugh at the skinny fan. You really want his autograph? Maybe he'll not play football for 2 years and open a restaurant. The companion was a little unimpressed. In his opinion, only the Premier League is football. The thin fan held Chu Xuan's signature and shook his head. You don't understand. He had a hunch that this scribbled signature might be worth thousands of dollars someday in the future. Episode 32. Stokesbridge had good luck, and after reaching the first round of FA Cup qualifying, they actually drew another opponent of the English Parliamentary League. In the main stage, League One and League Two teams have already entered. If you encounter any of them, it will be a dead battle for Stokesbridge. If they can last one more round this time when they encounter the weak brigade, they will have a chance to achieve their real goals. In the third round of the FA Cup, fight against a Premier League team. If it's a big team, even better. In the 8th division, there are also many teams talking about Stokesbridge. This team is already the hope of the whole village in the League Liga. Yes, they are rivals, but in the FA Cup, they want Stokesbridge to go further. In this way, some mainstream media and fans can notice their humble amateur league. I feel that they lost money in the first round of the British Councillors' Congress, and they couldn't broadcast it at all. It's good to win. If you want to lose, it is better to lose to a League One team. They took out the English Parliamentary Union team twice in a row, and it felt like luck. This time the opponent is ranked third and feels less easy to deal with. I also think they're going to hang. In the first round of the FA Cup, Stokesbridge away to English League powerhouse Cambridge United. They fought in the professional league for 35 years until they were relegated to the English Council in 2005. Cambridge United have even reached the quarter-finals of the League Cup and have won the title in League One and League Two. And soon after, they will be the runners-up of the British Parliamentary Union. It can be seen that Cambridge United is definitely not a weak brigade. Match day for the first round of the FA Cup. Chu Xuan went to Cambridgeshire with the team, and by the way, he felt the edification of the famous Cambridge University. Cambridge United Stadium, Abbey Stadium, can accommodate 10,000 spectators. Of course, this level of away games would not cause any obstacles to Chu Xuan, but instead sent him a lot of dream points. Ding! Discover the new Stadium Abbey Sports Ground and get 1,000 dream points. Ooh! That's a lot. After playing so many games, Chu Xuan's dream points had already accumulated more than 30,000. But the dream store is still grey and unopenable. Chu Xuan could only wait while saving points. As the Stokesbridge players warmed up on the pitch, Cambridge United players were watching them. Especially that Oriental striker. The manager said that this game must be stared at him and not give him any space. They thought to themselves, as long as they defended carefully, it was easy to target an amateur player. No body, no speed, no technology, what other waves can be turned over? Results 90 minutes later. The Cambridge United players stood dejectedly on the pitch, collectively dumbfounded. The stadium of more than 10,000 people has already walked a little by the end of the game. The red numbers on the scoreboard stung their eyes. Cambridge United 1:4 Stokesbridge. So far, they haven't figured out what happened in these 90 minutes. Actually let an amateur team pour 4 goals? Wasn't it still leading in the first half? Yes, Cambridge United did lead in the first half. In the 30th minute of the match, Cambridge United tore apart the opponent's defense with a strong passing combination. 1:0. If Cambridge United takes advantage of the situation as usual, it will be crushed with a stormy attack. Maybe Stokesbridge's gang. But this game Vardy suddenly began to erupt, full of state. As long as the team breaks the football, a big foot opens up front. Vardy will use his speed and aggressiveness to frantically storm the backline of Cambridge United. Before the end of the first half, Vardy received a straight plug on the counterattack and drove straight in, like a blue whirlwind. Facing the goalkeeper with a single knife, Vardy did not drag the mud and crossed decisively. Chu Xuan rushed to the horse and pushed the empty door into the net. The collaboration of 2 striker killers helped the team equalize. This sharp counterattack completely scared the Cambridge United manager. He quickly asked the team to shrink the defense and stabilize the situation. If you stabilize the draw in the first half, you can kill the opponent in the second half. Unfortunately, his wishful thinking was empty again. Cambridge United contracted back, giving Chu Xuan the opportunity to perform. He was like a ghost in the box and had 2 consecutive shots. Causal law shot, 1/5. Causal law shot, 2/5. In the first half of injury time, Chu Xuan once again used the god-level running position to grab a gap. Vardy's pass was also delivered in time. Chu Xuan did not hesitate, half turned around and raised his foot to volley into the air. Although it is not a 100% probability, this ball Chu Xuan's footwork is very certain. The football smashed into the net. Stokesbridge scored 2 goals in a row to reverse the score when trailing by 1 goal in the first half. At this time, Cambridge United's mentality was also broken. Pressing up to attack was counterattacked, and taking back to defend gave people a chance to shoot. How does this make people fight? Episode 33. Since joining the Stokesbridge Park Steel team, Chu Xuan felt that he had become fulfilled again. In the past, when there was no ball in the country, he was depressed. Either stay at home and play games, or wander the streets. Sometimes before you know it, you will walk to a nearby stadium and stand on the sidelines and watch others play. One stop is an afternoon, after others disperse. Chu Xuan also silently walked home, and then went to the bar to work in the evening. When there is an amateur competition, Chu Xuan will be more energetic. Get ready early and head to the pitch. Even if you kick in the vegetable field with a bunch of fishy guys. At least at the moment on the court, Chu Xuan felt that he was still alive. And now Chu Xuan feels that he is full of energy at any time. He is really glad that joining this amateur team is simply the most correct decision he has ever made. Training with these teammates here, playing together, he regained his former happiness. Most importantly, he has a very clear goal. Go down on the FA Cup. Face off against Premier League giants. In the first round of FA Cup qualifying, Stokes Bridge beat Cambridge United in the 5th Division 4-1 at home. They can be called the strongest dark horses in the 2008-2009 FA Cup. From the qualifiers, and now to the main stage, they have slashed strong opponents and upset continuously. Now it's the end of November, and Stokes Bridge's next rival has been freshly released. Stokes Bridge training ground. Steve Adams stood in front of the queue with a serious face. You all know who we will be against in the next round of the FA Cup. No. Have faith? This test is even tougher than the previous ones. Have faith. Louder, I can't hear. Have faith. F***K yeah. Dry them up. Looking at the crowd of enthusiastic players, Steve Adams nodded. Good. Very spiritual. With consecutive victories, everyone is now very cohesive and has initially gained the momentum of a professional team. Only by fighting like an army can you defeat a stronger enemy. A week later, they will face the city's strongest team, Sheffield City Face Club. Sheffield United. Steve Adams believes this is their biggest test on the way to the third round. The following soldiers seem to be ready. Speaking of Sheffield United, domestic fans may not be too unfamiliar. The club is one of the founding members of the FA and was founded in 1889. They have won the top flight for decades and have also won the FA Cup 4 times. As for the second division championships, there are countless more. The Premier League was established in 1992 and Sheffield United was a participating member. In 2006, Sheffield United finished second in the championship and once again made a successful victory. In the same year, Sheffield United even sponsored Tianfu Rongqing Wunyo Football Club and changed its name to Rongqing Sheffield United. Unfortunately, after one season, they were relegated to the championship. This time, Sheffield United were a bit injured and relegated all the way to the lower leagues. It wasn't until 10 years later in the 2018-19 season that Sheffield United finally returned to the Premier League. In the eyes of most Premier League fans, Sheffield United is just a trivial lift that any team can press them to the ground and rub. But over the years, the championship, no matter how weak, is also a giant compared to Stokes Bridge. Sheffield City media were also excited about this FA Cup civil war and began to promote the Sheffield City Derby. However, most citizens do not recognize this title. Generally, derbies are hot, or evenly matched, or have historical grievances. Manchester United v Liverpool is a derby, Dortmund v Schalke 04 is a derby, AC Milan vs Inter Milan is a derby, Real Madrid v Barcelona is a derby. Even if Sheffield is a city derby, it should be Sheffield United versus Sheffield Wednesday. Sheffield United v Stokes Bridge? What kind of derby is this? Whether others recognize this derby or not, Sheffield United manager Blackwell didn't care about the FA Cup at all. With the championship in the 08/09 season so far, Sheffield United are temporarily at the top of the table. Only the top 2 teams can make the cut, and the 3rd to 6th places need to play the playoffs. And the Wolves and Birmingham teams behind Sheffield United are biting tightly, and Sheffield United must repeat all their strength to stabilize the top position. No matter how bad it is, it has to be in the top 2. Moreover, in the following period, the Sheffield League schedule is intensive, and they really can't spare their hands to take care of the FA Cup. Blackwell has already made a decision within the team. Our focus is still on the league, so next FA Cup, I will consider players from the reserve team and the youth team. You guys focus on the league and try to beat Wolves head-to-head in the next game. Sheffield United's players have no problem and they don't care about the FA Cup. Everyone's goal is the Premier League. Only if they succeed in the rush can they get bigger contracts and go to stronger teams. Among the many players, Welsh Gary Speed quietly poked an Oriental player next to him with his elbow. Son, it is said that this FA Cup has an Oriental on the other side. Huh? Is it? I don't know yet. As the two were talking, the manager had announced the FA Cup starting list in advance, naming the Oriental player. Right wingback, Sun Jihai, you start. Episode 34. The happiest time for Oriental fans was probably the years 0104. At that time, the national football team broke into the World Cup for the first time and the whole country celebrated. The World Cup national football match, the school does not even have classes, and the students are organized to watch the game in the classroom. Although in the World Cup, 0-2, 0-3, 0-4, 3 games did not score a goal, drink hate out. At the very least, this team played back and forth with the five-star Samba on the field and played a certain style. In 2004, the national football team reached the final of the Asian Cup and competed with the Shogunate for the championship. Even if there are regrets, at that time, everyone was still spraying the handball of the Shogunate players and spraying the opponent's victory. Who could have imagined that what was thought to be the beginning of 4 years has become the peak of the national football team? Fans have also fallen into the dark abyss. There may be occasional glows in the middle, which quickly disappear and become darker and darker. Later, in 2022, the national football team has changed from Asia's first class to Asia's third rate, losing to Jeolla Country 1:3 on the first day of the new year. I don't want my face. The national football team became a terrier and occupied the ghost animal area of Station B. This is the helplessness of Oriental fans. Once upon a time, we had a few good players. Li Di, Sun Jihai, Jing Ji, Yang Chen, Fan Zi. Among them, both in terms of individual ability and status in European clubs, Sun Jihai is recognized as a better player. After joining Manchester City in 2002, Sun Jihai grew rapidly and established himself as Manchester City's main right-back. He gradually gained the love of Manchester City fans and became the Eastern Son of Manchester City fans. Unfortunately, due to the impact of injury, Sun Jihai's highlight moment did not last long. After several ups and downs, he finally joined Sheffield United as a free agent when his contract expired in 2008. At this time, Sun Jihai was over 30 years old, and he did not have the sharpness of the long-distance attack. He was also not well received by manager Blackwell at Sheffield United and spent most of his time on the bench watching his teammates run away. Sun Jihai already had the idea of returning to China at this time, and after working hard outside for many years, he saw the beauty of football and the cruelty of football. Oriental players, it's really not easy. So he listened to his teammates and suddenly became very interested. There are still Oriental players in Sheffield? Was it born here? Or from the country? Sun Jihai really wanted to meet this little compatriot at this time. Chu Xuan Cuisine, Sheffield Central Store. The evening rush hour had passed, and Chu Xuan, who had been busy for several hours, was finally able to breathe. Baldi, who was delivering the dishes inside, was also off work. He changed into civilian clothes and prepared to go home. Although they are the hottest striker combination in the FA Cup, they are highly effective killers who make the entire English Federation tremble. But in order to live, Vardy had to work several jobs at the same time. In addition to the work of medical device factories, there are also part-time jobs in Sichuan restaurants and bars. Before turning professional, Vardy had to go back and forth like this. But he left work a little early today. Doesn't he usually leave late? Jamie, you left work so early? Is there a date? Chu Xuan teased. Vardy was stunned, and he was a little embarrassed, and he smiled. Huh? Sure enough, who is it? Baldi paused, but still confessed, you've seen it, your sister's classmate. Chu Xuan's mind suddenly appeared that Scottish girl with an ordinary face and a somewhat handsome personality. That die-hard fan of Vardy. When did you two get together? Chu Xuan suddenly gossiped with interest. We're not together yet, let's go on a date and watch a movie. Okay, good luck. See you tomorrow. Vardy couldn't wait to leave. Suddenly, some pictures seemed to appear in front of Chu Xuan's eyes. Vardy joined the professional squad many years later and finally became a professional star at Leicester City FC. Then he meets a nightclub girl named Rebecca in a nightclub, and the two later date. After Rebecca's black material was dug up by the English media, she had already given birth to 2 children for 2 men before she met Vardy. After a month of dating Vardy, she was pregnant for another 3 months. Vardy is happy to be a daddy again. After the two got married, Rebecca still had scandals, and even had an affair with Rooney. It's just a troubleshooter. But at the moment when Vardy and the Scottish girl were dating, the illusion that Chu Xuan had just seen seemed to be shattered. He felt like watching a movie, and everything was like a lifetime. Foggy grass? What was that just now? Is it related to Goldfinger? Chu Xuan suddenly felt a sense of familiarity. but he didn't have time to think about it at the moment, and it seemed that someone was greeting him. "Hello, are you Chu Xuan?" "It's me, may I ask you?" When Chu Xuan heard this, he looked up, but he didn't expect to see a very familiar Oriental man. "Once, I was also on TV and saw him galloping on the green field." Real people are much more vicissitudes than they were then. Sun Jihai? Episode 35. Sun Jihai? Brother Sun, are you looking for me? Chu Xuan was stunned. He would not have expected that Sun Jihai would come to him and find the restaurant here. In 2004, when he trained for the national youth team, he was at the same training base as the men's senior team. At that time, Chu Xuan had seen Sun Jihai from a distance. At that time, the national football team was at its peak in terms of strength and prestige. Those stars in the team are also role models for young national players. Unexpectedly, after 4 years, both of them fell from the peak to the bottom. It's like the Oriental men's soccer team. There were not many guests in the restaurant anymore, and Chu Xuan and Sun Jihai found a quiet place to sit opposite each other. "You've seen me before?" Sun Jihai was a little surprised. He checked the information and learned that Chu Xuan seemed to be a very famous child in the national youth team back then, but unfortunately disappeared later. It's a pity that he hasn't contacted him before, and he can't help Chu Xuan. "Yes, when I was in the national youth team before, I was in the same training base as you," Chu Xuan said with a faint smile. He estimated that Sun Jihai would not care about the national youth players. Sure enough, Sun Jihai suddenly realized. "No wonder, I remember that your national youth was preparing for the World Youth Championships, and then you were at the World Youth Championships." Sun Jihai did not continue. Because he remembers that the hopeful star of the national football team suffered a serious injury in the World Youth Championships. At that time, Chu Xuan was full of spirit and unruly. And a calm and deep young man in front of him. "Yes, my leg hurt, I can't find an opportunity in China, so I came to play in the amateur team here." Chu Xuan didn't care, and flatly said his most painful experience. In fact, since the moment he joined the team, Chu Xuan had already put it down. "Well, it's not easy for you either. If it weren't for the Football Association, you definitely have a chance to be selected." Sun Jihai shook his head helplessly. The urine nature of the guys in the Football Association, Sun Jihai knows too well. He really felt sorry for Chu Xuan. "By the way, what is Brother Sun looking for me this time?" "Actually, it's nothing, I heard that there is a compatriot in Sheffield City, and I want to get to know him. Unexpectedly, we still have a relationship before. And, the next FA Cup game, we are opponents." Sun Jihai's smile was a little helpless and a little complicated. If it had been before, there would definitely have been domestic media hyping up the concept of Oriental Derby. Two Oriental players are their own masters, and they fight each other in the same arena, but full of gunpowder. He once had several Oriental Derby with Li, which provoked the media for a month. But now, no one is paying attention to an insignificant FA Cup, and even fans can't think of them. "Brother Sun, are you the starter?" "Yes, I'm a starter." "It's good, although I didn't get into the national football team to play with you, it's good to play on the field." Chu Xuan still had that gentle smile. But Sun Jihai was almost broken by Chu Xuan. Damn it. Why did the original star of hope fall here? Obviously, the future of the men's football team at that time was very promising. Damn it. Sun Jihai's heart is full of unwillingness, but he is not good at hitting the young man's football dream. The old man over 30 had to squeeze out a smile. "See you in the arena." "Well, see you in the arena." The two former internationals looked at each other and knew that everyone would give their best in the next game. Sun Jihai chatted casually, then politely took his leave and left. Before leaving, he also seriously encouraged Chu Xuan and asked him to stick to his dream. Watching this big brother leave, Chu Xuan finally had time to ponder the illusion in front of him just now. It seems that the moment Vardy decided to go on a date, the illusion appeared involuntarily. And this illusion made Chu Xuan feel inexplicably familiar. That's right. Phantom. The Phantom of the Fox of the Forbidden Zone. Could it be that the ability of the Fox of the Forbidden Area Phantom is actually to predict the future? The performance on the pitch is that there will be a goal opportunity in a certain position in the future, and the Phantom will be there to remind itself? Including the celebratory action in his dream, it seems to be the signature action of a certain world superstar. The ability of this Goldfinger is getting more and more outrageous. Compared to these, Chu Xuan wants to see if his future self can become a professional player again? Can I join the Giants? Can you still run like you once did? Unfortunately, there was no movement for half a day. He simply stopped thinking about it. Since you can't see the future, let's write the future. What? Did you chat with Sun Jihai? Back at the third uncle's house, Chu Xuan and his little sister Chu Qianqian shared what they saw today. Hearing Sun Jihai's real person appear, Chu Qianqian was slightly excited. Sun Jihai has no cards in football, but he is also one of the faces of the national football team. It is the ceiling of the overseas players, and he can barely be regarded as a well-known star. But Chu Qianqian didn't even get an autograph. Harm, I will become a superstar in the future, and my signature will be worth a lot. Then you become a superstar first. That's right. Chu Qianqian suddenly remembered, the next FA Cup is the Oriental Derby. It's all media gimmicks and it doesn't make much sense. Meaningful. Chu Qianqian pouted, a little unconvinced. It's your first derby. No, I'm going to record it and give you an explanation of the game. Chu Xuan had a bit of a brain pain. I really don't understand, it's just an FA Cup, is it necessary to be so grand? Episode 36. Friends from the audience, this is a highlight match in the second round of the FA Cup, Sheffield City Derby. Sheffield United host Stokes Park Steels. Sheffield United, wearing red and white shirts, are currently at the top of the championship. Stokes Bridge, who are away from home, wear a blue shirt and they are currently number 1 in the League Amateur League. Sheffield United sent substitutes and youth team squads to deal with amateur teams. And Stokes Bridge, the biggest dark horse in this FA Cup, can they upset again in this game? Sheffield United's home stadium, Bramall Lane Stadium, had a packed 32,000-seat stand. After all, in Sheffield, both teams have a lot of fans. The 3,000 people in the visiting team stands were packed, and Chu Qianqian was in the crowd, holding a DV to point the video on the field. At the same time, she is also explaining endlessly in Chinese. Sissy, what are you doing? Next to Vardy's fangirl, Merida was a little curious. I'm explaining. Since this match is not only the Sheffield Derby, but also the Oriental Derby. Although television broadcasts were allocated, they were only broadcast on Sheffield local television. Domestic fans simply did not know that there was this game. Therefore, Chu Qianqian plans to record an explanation video and upload it to the largest oil depot network in China. I hope to let more domestic fans know that in distant England, there are 2 Oriental players competing in the FA Cup. Of course, this is also to exercise your interpretation ability and strive to become a well-known female football commentator as soon as possible after graduation. Chu Qianqian's dream is to be able to explain Chu Xuan's Champions League final on the spot. Chu Xuan is working hard, and she is also working hard for this goal. The game has begun, and Chu Xuan, a striker from my country, kicked off in the middle circle. He temporarily leads the FA Cup scorers list with 15 goals. Another international in my country, Sun Jihai, is in the opposite squad and he joined Sheffield United on a free transfer this season and currently plays right wing back. Pretty. Taking advantage of Sheffield United's unstable start to the game, Stokes Bridge unexpectedly boldly attacked and shoved straight into the box. Chu Xuan. Unfortunately, under Sun Jihai's close watch, Chu Xuan lost his balance, and this shot was slightly deflected off the goalpost. The 2 former Oriental internationals are now rivals in a foreign country. They all give their all and fight for every goal for the team they play for. Sheffield United, as the leader of the championship, naturally does not give too many chances to its opponents. They began to use the advantage of passing control to firmly control the situation. Sheffield United have found their offensive rhythm, and they have broken through on the right side and distributed it to Sun Jihai on the edge. Sun Jihai set the edge breakthrough, beautiful. Bottom cross. Keen tackle, in front of goal. The ball deflected off the goal and Stokes Bridge escaped. It can be seen that although this amateur team is very hard-working, their control in the midfield is too weak, and the scene is always controlled by the opponent. Chu Qianqian's tone became slightly anxious. As a commentator, it is necessary to present an objective and neutral attitude to explain the game. But Chu Qianqian explained for the first time, and it was inevitable to bring her own preferences into it. Mainly in the stadium, she couldn't wait to cheer Chu Xuan with the loudest voice. I don't explain it if I know it earlier, and it's really a bit torturous to watch the ball like this. In the end, Chu Qianqian adjusted her mentality and tried to put herself into a state of professional commentary. After the start of the game, both Chu Xuan and Vardy felt the pressure from the championship team. The 11 people on the opposite side are all substitutes and do not have a single core of the main force. But people are at least big clubs, and no matter how bad the training level is, it is not comparable to the amateur team. These substitutes plus youth players have at least 70% of their first team skills. Chu Xuan felt that his own defense was full of loopholes, and he could be breached at any time. If it weren't for the poor footwork against the striker in front of him, he might have fallen behind by 2 goals by now. No way, both technically and tactically, Stoke's bridge was completely crushed. The midfield is also not at all a match for professional teams. This is inevitable. The reason why professional teams are professional teams, their training time and training level are far beyond the amateur team. On the one hand, I eat this one, and on the other hand, I train occasionally after work. The gap between the two is exponentially magnified. The only thing that can be fought at Stoke's bridge is the body. They still have a lot of strong guys, and the guys in the midfield train their muscles in the gym when they have nothing to do. So according to head coach Steve Adams, their tactic is to use more physical confrontation. Technology does not work, make up for it with a fierce attitude. For a while, the scene suddenly became fragmented. The two sides engaged in a fierce stranglehold in midfield. Sheffield United possessed the ball in midfield and Stoke's bridge grabbed it fiercely. Captain Thorne fell to the ground and put the shovel. Directly shoveled the Sheffield United midfielder. The referee gave Thorne a verbal warning and blew Sheffield United's free kick. Another foul, Sheffield United left midfielder, threatened too much and was directly tripped to the ground. The two sides collided with heads in midfield. The ball came down and was thrown to the ground again. Stoke's bridge back Madeira fouled and was shown a yellow card by the referee. The scene suddenly became ugly. The well-trained regular army encountered unreasonable soldiers in their home field. Was smashed on the head by a punch, and was a little dizzy. The other party actually took out a dagger to launch a fatal blow. In the middle of the grappling, Captain Thorne did not hesitate after taking the ball, and directly opened the gap in front with a big foot. Before Sheffield United could react, Vardy and Chu Xuan had already started at the same time. Striker, double evil, double ghost shot, door. Oops. Unjustly, who assisted to the front, secretly said that it was not good, gritting his teeth and chasing back. Episode 37. Sheffield United's substitutes and youth team players still have a bit of experience playing games. Their attention was on the fouls and scramble in the midfield, but they didn't notice that the opponent directly and unreasonably passed long after breaking the ball. Thorne successfully intercepted. He doesn't raise his head and kick a long pass. Is it a solution? No. Vardy and Chu Xuan have started. Stoke's bridge's counterattack. The other party, Unjustly, also chased back in time. At the age of 30, he was not old, and he gradually caught up with Chu Xuan. Danger, Chu Xuan's jersey has been pulled by Unjustly. At this time, Unjustly used his rich experience to pull Chu Xuan's jersey. As long as he keeps obstructing, even if he can't break the ball, he can disrupt the rhythm of Chu Xuan's counterattack. Because he knew that Chu Xuan was not good at passing on. What the? Worst. To Unjustly's expectation, Chu Xuan actually chose to pass the ball and send a straight plug forward. Unjustly suddenly felt at this moment that the teenager in front of him who was sentenced to death by the Football Association. In fact, it has been reborn in the amateur league on the other side of the ocean. Chu Xuan in the stands was also excited. Chu Xuan was entangled by Unjustly. Huh? Pretty. Suddenly a straight kick. At the critical moment, Chu Xuan shoved a straight forward gap. The ball crossed the defender's interception and was picked up by Vardy. It's a connection between two strikers. Vardy accelerates and forcibly overtakes the opposing centre-back. Vardy. Single knife. The ball has. Textbook defensive counterattack. Chu Xuan passed the ball at the first time and found an extremely penetrating route. This attack was planned. Vardy received an assist from Chu Xuan, used his personal running ability to form a single knife, and calmly pushed and broke the net. The entire counterattack took only 8 seconds. The world's martial arts, only fast and unbroken. Stoke's bridge away, temporarily 1-0 ahead of Sheffield United. Goalscorer Vardy, an assist from Chu Xuan. Seeing such a wonderful quick counterattack, Chu Xuan was extremely excited. The DV picture also trembles violently. Although it was not Chu Xuan's goal, his direct plug this time was quite important and directly penetrated the opponent's defense. Vardy is very comfortable with the ball and does not have to adjust the pace. Well done. Chu, you are too handsome. Bull batch. Chu Xuan's passing level is very bad, but it is just that his passing timing and creativity are insufficient. His basic skills in short passing are still fine. At the critical moment just now, Chu Xuan saw a phantom in the distance, which meant that the gap was fatal. He can't run through himself, he can pass it on. So Chu Xuan decisively stepped out and accurately assisted Vardy to score. Vardy excitedly high-fived Chu Xuan, and the two came to the stands together and shouted to the fans. Well done. Vardy. Well done. Clear. Dangerous. Vardy. Mighty. Clear. Stokes Bridge fans even sang ballads about the pair of striker killers. It's also the way England fans are best at expressing it. For the players they love, they will sing the warmest. The stadium of more than 30,000 people is fully covered by the momentum of these 2,000 people. The goal was scored 36 minutes into the first half. Stokes Bridge then went on the defensive, and Sheffield's young players were also at a loss and failed to form a threatening attack. In this way, the two sides returned to the dressing room with a score of 0-1. Sheffield's young players also thought manager Blackwell would be furious. Unexpectedly, his own manager's mind was not on the FA Cup at all. The coach, instructor, or the assistant coach reminded him whether to say 2 words to the players. Huh? Oh. This game, you guys played pretty well. But don't take it lightly. Blackwell said absent-mindedly. The opponent is fighting fiercely, don't get hurt in the second half, don't get hurt. Sheffield United players looked at each other. What's the situation? Got dunked a ball by an amateur team, and this is still a good kick? Okay, the coach doesn't swear. Who wouldn't? The atmosphere in the dressing room also began to relax. In fact, Coach Blackwell has just learned that the injury of first-team main striker Sharp has been detected. He has to recuperate for 3 months. Main strikers Henderson and Quinn are both out due to injury. At the critical moment of rushing over, Sheffield United was actually wounded and full of soldiers? Blackwell is already considering promoting players from the youth team and naturally doesn't want them to get hurt. The FA Cup is just that, what is the super important? Anyway, there is no hope of competing for the championship, what is the point of holding out one more round? In the dressing room, only Sun Jihai felt helpless. He looked around and shook his head secretly. The team's mentality is still overtaking? Is there even the most basic desire to win? Look at the person Chu Xuan, even if his career is knocked into the abyss, he gritted his teeth and climbed up from hell, step by step. If only my teammates had this awareness. Sun Jihai secretly shook his head with some despair. He has made up his mind at the moment to let the agent contact the club in the country after the match. After the start of the second half, Stokes Bridge's action was still ferocious. They fought for every ball, and their eyes seemed to reveal red light, like hungry beasts. Sheffield's young players were instructed by the manager, and naturally did not dare to compete and pass bells and whistles. A lot of 5-5 balls, they will also instinctively make mistakes. Stokes Bridge thus grabbed many opportunities to fight back. Beautiful. Fierce steals, no fouls. Vardy counters with the ball. Vardy faced the 3-person bag and calmly shoved it straight to Chu Xuan. Knock on the door. Oops, this ball was blocked by the goalkeeper with one palm, corner kick. Causal law shot, 3/5. Corner kick open. Chu Xuan grabbed the point and scored with a header. Once again defused by the goalkeeper. Or a corner kick. Causal law shot, 4 out of 5. The corner of Chu Xuan's mouth raised a cruel smile. Sorry, the buff is already stacked. Episode 38. What just happened? Earthquake? It seems to be over there on the pitch. Any competition today? FA Cup, Sheffield United vs. Against whom? An amateur team in the city. It must have been Sheffield United who scored. Well, it should be. Bramall Lane Stadium erupted into a huge hustle. Actually observing the stands, you can see that most of the people in the home team stands are crying out in shock. Only the away stands are cheering with excitement. Stokes Bridge, an amateur team playing away from home, scored again. That goal just now was amazing. Let's watch the replay again. Of course, this playback of Chu Xuan will be added to the clip. Dial the time back 1 minute. Chu Xuan's 2 consecutive shots were blocked by the goalkeeper, and Stokes Bridge got a corner kick again. Captain Jeep Thorne takes the penalty. He was about to take a penalty after the penalty, but saw Chu Xuan quietly raise a finger. Tactic number 1? That is the position of the front point. Chu Xuan wants a half-high ball? But now there are several big guys in front of the point, and the players from both sides are huddled together. Unless bypassing them a little further. But further on, there is no shooting angle. Forget it, trust that guy. It has been recognized in the team that Chu Xuan's ability to run without the ball and find opportunities can gain a foothold in the Premier League, and he can even try it with this to the Giants. Captain Thorne chose to be brainless and believe Chu Xuan. He nodded and raised his hand to send a code message to his teammates. Then he ran and kicked a half-high ball. At the same time, Chu Xuan first pulled outward, and then flashed and ran forward. The opposing defender was shaken and did not follow. However, there were also people blocking Chu Xuan in front, and it was impossible for him to complete his turn. In this way, in the eyes of both enemies and us, Chu Xuan rushed to the football route, seemingly ready to stop the ball. But in the next second, he actually raised his foot and swung his tail with a scorpion and hit the door directly. What? Chu Xuan's call this time was very sudden, and no one was ready. Everyone watched as Chu Xuan's heel shot out a strange route, drilling into the blind corner of the goal from above everyone's heads. This imaginative dragon swing tail completely ignited the entire stadium. Sheffield United fans rarely see such a brilliant goal. And the fans of the amateur team Stokesbridge said, "Sorry, don't get excited, this is Chu Xuan's basic operation. We're used to it." Trailing 2-0, even Sheffield United's young players were stirred up with a hint of blood. They began to try to lay siege to Stokesbridge. How could they lose face at their home turf? Stokesbridge reaped the good sights, once again sacrificed a crazy 6-4-0 formation, and resolutely held on to the advantage. But as long as the ball is broken, they will drive forward with a big foot, and Vardy and Chu Xuan create a little crisis from time to time. Sheffield United played very hard throughout the second half. Even if they once had 90% possession, they couldn't break the opponent's goal. After all, he is still a substitute for the championship team, and he does not have the determination to win in the face of adversity. The young winger began to drip blindly, trying to single out the defense. The substitute striker tried to prove himself, receiving the ball was a wave shot. The midfielder's passing was also unorganized, and he tried to create a threat. The defender is also very anxious, and even wants to rush into the front forward. In short, the last 30 minutes of the second half were basically a farce, and Sheffield United's mentality was completely unbalanced. Got poured into two by an amateur team, and I don't want my face. When the referee blew the whistle for the end of the game, the away stands already went crazy. Chu Xuan was very excited, and even wanted to cry. She knows Stokesbridge's real goal is to reach the third round of the FA Cup and play Premier League teams. Now with their tenacious willpower, and the excellent strength of the two strikers. And they did. And they did. The game is over. The biggest dark horse of the FA Cup is upset again. Goals from Chu Xuan and Jamie Vardy helped the team win 2-0 away to championship rivals Sheffield United. They reached the third round of the FA Cup for the first time as an amateur team. They are going to face Premier League teams next. Chu Xuan once again directed this great victory with a pass and a shot. His imaginative scorpion swung its tail and shocked the audience. After the game, Sun Jihai specifically found Chu Xuan and wanted to exchange jerseys with him. "Xiao Chu, play beautifully. I really can't help you." "Harm, brother Sun, you are still not old, to be honest, your focus is not in the FA Cup. By the way, our club has no money, only 2 sets of uniforms. In the future, I will play professionally and give you a set." Chu Xuan smiled a little embarrassed. "I have to wash this away shirt on my back and wear it again. Amateur team, no way." Sun Jihai smiled and patted Chu Xuan's shoulder. "It doesn't matter, then it's settled, you signed a professional club, remember to give me a signed version, I want to collect." Then he said seriously, "Chu Xuan, I believe that your talent will definitely be seen by the big team. How about I ask the agent to contact Manchester City for you?" No, I'll kick here first, and recover by the way. I'll figure it out later." Chu Xuan seemed confident. "Well, I believe you." The ceiling of the strength of the former national football team, and the hope star of the former national football, the two held their hands together. Unfortunately, the glory of the national football team is a thing of the past. The reborn Chu Xuan had just started a new journey. On the field, Chu Xuan was coming to the away stand with his teammates to thank his fans. None of them imagined that such an amateur team living at the bottom could one day really play against a Premier League team. In fact, this game, Stokesbridge Park Steel Club can already share the broadcast fee. Local sports channels have little money, but they are a lot of money. The next round against Premier League teams, if against the Giants, may even be broadcast by TV stations such as the BBC and Sky Sports. At that time, the broadcast fee can be multiplied several times. The rest of the teams were praying that they wouldn't run into 2 strong opponents, only the Stokesbridge guys were the opposite. "Let's draw a big team. Manchester United, Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal. Let the horses come." Episode 39. On December 7th, the warm winter sun made people chill a little. Sheffield City Centre, Chu Xuan cuisine. It was past the noon rush hour, the restaurant doors were closed, and a sign reading "Close" was hung on the door. But the restaurant was packed, with more than 30 people gathered around, their eyes fixed on the TV screens above. The TV has switched to BBC Sports and today is a big moment, the FA Cup draw ceremony. In the third round of the FA Cup, Premier League teams are off. There was no training on this day, and the entire team players, as well as the coaching staff and even the team owner, came to the restaurant to watch the draw together. Chu Xuan also met the owner of his club for the first time. Is a middle-aged English uncle with a very ordinary face, polite with glasses, like a university professor. He is the owner of a steel mill near the community, and his investment in the team is purely due to his passion for football, and he does not care about gains and losses. That's why he improved the turf of the stadium at any cost, invested in training facilities, and even built a youth echelon. You can see that this boss really loves football. The teammates chatted and waited for the draw, and Vardy, who worked part-time in the restaurant, consciously gave everyone a bottle of beer. Who do you say will be drawn? If we draw teams like Hull City, Cyburn Albion and Blackburn, will we win? What do you want? Do you think all other teams send second teams? The Premier League definitely wants to go further. Instead of drawing this kind of team, you might as well draw a Big Four, or Tottenham or Everton. That is, if you want to fight, hit a strong team. Then imagine if we beat Manchester United at the Theatre of Dreams. Chu Xuan's teammates have already begun to daydream, but such daydreams, they will also try their best to realize them. As for Chu Xuan himself, it doesn't matter who he kicks, just play every game as a final. Of course, he will be even more excited when he meets a giant. The draw has begun. I don't know who shouted, and everyone returned to the TV. The BBC live broadcast has been going on. Manchester United and Chelsea have drawn their opponents. At this moment, the atmosphere in the restaurant gradually became tense, and teammates and coaches stared intently at the screen. Only Chu Xuan leaned lightly on the chair, picked up the thermos cup next to him, and took a sip of tea. I don't look like a 19-year-old guy at all. The note drawn by the lottery guests at this moment is another giant team. Once the absolute hegemon of English football, who won the Champions League 3 years ago, Manchester United's sworn rival this season has many world-class stars. Liverpool. The BBC host laughed. Let's see, who will be Liverpool's opponent? The lottery guests casually took out a football-like model with a note with the team's name on it. He opened the note and displayed it in front of the camera lens, and the large close-up was very clear for everyone to see. The atmosphere of the restaurant became a little subtle. Stokesbridge Park. It's them. Stokesbridge Park Steel Team. Our opponents. Is it Liverpool? The BBC host was slightly surprised to see this result. He smiled, and then quickly looked at the information on the table. Wow, this team. Stokesbridge Park Steelworks, they are the biggest dark horse of this FA Cup. They come from the League One, the amateur league of the 8th tier. But this amazing team went all the way upset and even beat Sheffield United in the Championship. They are said to have a pair of highly efficient strikers, with striker Xian Chu scoring 17 goals and being the top scorer. This is very exciting. What kind of spark will they have against the traditional giants Liverpool? After the drawing ceremony, there was a slight silence in the restaurant. Head coach Steve Adams was a little worried. Arguably they had achieved their goal. Pumped Liverpool, why didn't they react? As a result, he thought too much, and his teammates couldn't believe it just now, and when he came back to his senses, everyone's faces were full of expectation. It's really a giant. Liverpool, hey, and it's away. We're going to play at Anfield. I used to dream of playing at Anfield and I didn't expect that dream to come true. Anfield. In England, if you talk about the most famous stadiums. In addition to Wembley and Manchester United's Old Trafford, Liverpool's Anfield Stadium is the case. The stadium used to be a nightmare for many away teams. Because at the exit of the players' tunnel, the Liverpool logo is clearly affixed. The words above impressed all opponents. This is Anfield. This is Anfield. Before the Premier League was established, the phrase was like Tarzan, weighing heavily on the opponent. Always remind them that the opponent is a giant to look up to. Now that Liverpool is sunset, this sentence still carries enough weight. But that pressure doesn't seem to be doing much for Stokesbridge. Along the way, they faced all the teams were Big Macs. But they wore tattered armor, rode on horses, and took rusty broken guns to pick down strong enemies one by one. What about Liverpool? And what about Anfield? Here we go. Episode 40. Liverpool, Merseyside, Northwest England. The area around Melwood's training base is as lively as ever. During the 15 minutes of the team's training session, journalists can take pictures here. During the Christmas fixture, Liverpool's situation was not very good, and the manager, aka tactician, Benitez, never let go. Not long ago, the team's midfield core Xavi Alonso has stated that he will move to Real Madrid at the end of this season, regardless of whether he can win the title or not. Having lost the midfield commander, I don't know if I can find a suitable replacement. The 2008-2009 season was the closest Liverpool came to winning the Premier League, and they had hopes of beating Manchester United to win it. Benitez's goal is even the Triple Crown. He wants it all. The 10-game winning streak in the Premier League at the start of the season is hopeful, and top scorer Torres is in hot form. But in the last 3 league rounds, Liverpool drew and lost 2, gradually allowing Manchester United to catch up. In the Champions League, Liverpool drew 1-1 at home to Atletico Madrid and were later forced to draw 0-0 by Marseille. There were few victories throughout December. This has caused the morale of the team to be very low, and the training status of the players seems to have been affected. Several people made mistakes in succession during training. They desperately need a victory to boost morale. The next most recent match is the FA Cup at the beginning of the new year, where they will face a dark horse team from the Amateur League. This is good news for Benitez. The FA Cup was drawn and met with a soft persimmon. Then pinch him. With just one big win, the players may be able to regain confidence and face the test of the second half of the season. Benitez stood on the sidelines with a lot of thought, while the players on the pitch were uninterested and chatting quietly. I feel a bit of pressure to win the league this season, and the Champions League is probably enough. Tall bald guard Martin Scott-Tell said listlessly. Vice-captain Carragher slapped him on the back of the head. We're still at the top of the table, even if Manchester United are 1 point away, they can't catch up. At this time, Captain Steven Gerrard said seriously. Remember, our goal is the Triple Crown. Neither can be given up. Left-back Reeser grinned. The FA Cup is not easy yet, the next opponent is an amateur team, just abuse a few to play. Right, Fernando. The team's top scorer, Spanish golden boy Fernando Torres, has always been quiet. The handsome blonde just smiled faintly and said, just play every game, even if it's an amateur team. He has also seen the news, and the opposing striker is said to have scored 17 goals in the FA Cup. 7 games, 17 goals. That's a bit scary. Torres is interested in the striker called Chu and can't wait to play him on the field now. Meanwhile, on the other side of England. On the Stokes Bridge training ground, everyone was a little absent-minded. It's New Year's Eve this night, they all have families or girlfriends, and they all want to go on a date. Chu Xuan glanced at Barty next to him. This kid was also unusual, a little ape-hearted. It is estimated that he is also in a hurry to date. By the way, what happened to you and Malita? Hee, I feel that she is a little interesting to me, should I take the initiative and try to date her? Barty had not been in a relationship before and had little experience in this area. Chu Xuan couldn't help but think of the illusion he had seen before. If Barty had followed another timeline, it always felt that things were not good. Chu Xuan couldn't bear to see his good buddy enter a fire cave and marry such a scandalous wife. Relatively speaking, although Merida looks ordinary, she is quite handsome when you look closely. The most important character is very good, it should be more suitable for Vardy. Sorry bro, I want to change your plot. Yes, chasing girls is to take the initiative. She is originally your fan, if you take the initiative, you will definitely take her down. If you are not worried, I can also ask my sister and give you a staff officer. Chu Xuan grinned. Well, I'll ask her out for New Year's Eve tonight. Well, come on. Chu Xuan suddenly remembered something at this time and quickly said. By the way, in the future, you try not to go to nightclubs, even if you go to nightclubs, don't hook up with girls. Barty was stunned, and before Chu Xuan could explain, he understood it himself. Chu, I see, you also want me to become a top professional player, right? So many talented superstars have declined because they often go to nightclubs. Rest assured, I promise you that I will never go to nightclubs in the future. Barty assured with a serious face, besides, if I chase Merida, I will definitely accompany her more, and I will not go to nightclubs to fool around. Huh? This time it was Chu Xuan's turn to look confused. I'm obviously just letting you stay away from your wife in another timeline, how can you dissolve yourself?